passion for others, pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
This is the FlashPoint Television Network.
Welcome to FlashPoint NewsBreak, where the truth lives. Here are today's news stories.
Welcome to NewsBreak. I'm Gene Bailey. The goal of NewsBreak is to bring you the stories from around the globe that affect your life. Let's get started with what's happening.
This was the Senate Judiciary Committee. They just voted 12 to 10. 12 Republicans, all Republicans voted to advance Todd Blanche's nomination to the full Senate floor. That will happen later this week. But no major fireworks today. All Democrats opposed this nomination. All Republicans voted yes for this nomination. We heard a lot about the controversial $1.8 billion taxpayer fund that Todd Blanche said no longer exists anymore. That would go to people who feel that they are victims of government weaponization. That was something the Democrats brought up over and it could come up again in a different way, but ultimately it was Thom Tillis from North Carolina and John Cornyn from Texas who, after about a week or so of back and forth with Todd Blanche, decided that they would vote for Todd Blanche. So Todd Blanche gets a favorable nomination out of the Judiciary Committee, 12 to 10, all Republicans voting yes. And now this will go to the full Senate floor, where he is expected to be confirmed later this week, given that Tillis and Cornyn are now on board with this.
It was during this hour yesterday, during the Faulkner Focus, that we all learned that they were ready to, put aside or had worked through whatever their exceptions were to pushing this forward. So what does this mean overall for Blanche? I mean, there's been a little bit of a pause in all this. The president got involved. Give us a little bit of that part of the story.
Well, Blanche wants to get rid of the acting title and become the full-time attorney general. It looks like he is poised to do that right now. If Tillis and Cornyn voted against Blanche, President Trump had the option of keeping him in as an acting attorney general for the rest of his term, ending in January 2029. So it's unlikely that Todd Blanche was going to go anywhere. But now the president, if Todd Blanche is confirmed later this week, he will have a Senate-confirmed attorney general since Pam Bondi left earlier in April. And Todd Blanche and President Trump are close. I mean, Todd Blanche came up to be an attorney for President Trump as he was facing legal challenges, federal legal challenges in two different jurisdictions. And he ultimately prevailed with President Trump as his client. But he maintains that his client is the United States, the Department of Justice, not President Trump. Critics say that's a different story. They have problems with Todd Blanche, but ultimately this is good news for Todd Blanche because, as you said, Harris, just about a week or so ago, not even a week or so ago, that's when really all this kind of ramped up, but really a couple of days ago, it looked like we may not even get to this point today because Thom Tillis and John Cornyn were so adamant about not voting for Todd Blanche because of this $1.8 billion fund, which Blanche said is no longer here, and they wanted clarification about this IRS settlement, which shields Trump and his sons and family members from paying past tax penalties and IRS audits, but Blanche assured them that does not apply to any future tax years, and that's what they wanted to hear.
On Air Force One, President Trump explained why he called off the attack.
I was asked to by Saudi Arabia, by UAE, by Qatar, and by Iran. We were all set to go just about at this time right now. And it would have been a massive attack. And the reason they asked is I think there's a deal.
Iran quickly pushed back. Its military denied asking Trump to halt the strikes and insisted its forces remain on high alert. But Trump said negotiations will begin this week.
He has to remember that the Iranian government learned to lie before they learned to talk. And they're more than mildly insane.
Speaking on Meet the Press, Republican Senator John Kennedy cautioned the president.
Dealing with them is like dealing with Son of Sam or Charles Manson.
Reports indicate Israel was to have a role in the operation. One official said if the strikes didn't significantly damage the regime or its economic base, the attacks would have little value. I spoke with former IDF spokesman Jonathan Conricus, who told me one of the biggest surprises has been the regime's vulnerability.
How weak Iran is, how weak the Iranian regime is, what a paper tiger they are. I wasn't surprised by their cruelty towards their own people, wasn't surprised by how they have lashed out at other Arabs. I am surprised how penetrable, how exposed the Iranian regime is.
While analysts are debating the military and political implications, some Christian leaders believe an even deeper spiritual struggle is taking place.
We are dealing with ancient spirits, as you know, in the Middle East, the Prince of Persia, that has controlled geographic areas that are vast.
Jacob says the key is regime change.
And so the enemy does not want to give up this territory and will fight. And I believe that Iran is the hinge pin. And once it changes, the whole Middle East will change.
Reporting for FlashPoint in Jerusalem, I'm Paul Petit.
From the blockade of Iranian ports, a U.S. warship ordering a commercial vessel to turn around or else.
Captain, you are requested to alter course to 190. If you do not comply, we will compel compliance with force. This is Warship 45. We will monitor your course for compliance at this time. Warship 45 standing by on 16 out.
So at last count as of yesterday, CENTCOM saying it redirected 44 ships. It disabled 2 ships and boarded another 2. That's since President Trump ordered U.S. forces to resume the blockade last month. It also comes after reports this morning that a tanker was struck in the Strait of Hormuz. If so, that would be the 4th attack in the strait going back to last Friday. Dana.
Well, all of this comes after President Trump slammed the Iranian leadership yesterday, accusing them of lying about peace talks. The president says they are happening. Iran says they are not. Trump warning the regime they have one final opportunity to make a deal or face, quote, decapitation.
When we talk, we say we're talking. If we're not talking, when you ask me, no, we're not talking, I'll say it. But we are talking right now. We're talking, and we're talking at the request of Iran, backed by Saudi Arabia, backed by UAE, and backed by Qatar in particular, but others also. Many countries called, the leaders of many are friendly with a lot of them, almost all of them, one way or the other, and they all wanted to give this a last chance. This is the last chance.
Rebecca Heinrichs is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. What do you know of the talks on, off? What's going on?
Well, I think that what the president is talking about is clearly there. We do have the United States negotiators engaging with somebody over in Iran. And this is what the Gulf states want the United States to continue to pursue. As I've said repeatedly, though, Dana, I mean, the Iranians, even publicly, at this point, seem to be in a campaign to embarrass President Trump by saying that there are no negotiations at play. And furthermore, there's no evidence that we have seen that demonstrates the Iranians are actually willing to negotiate in good faith, even if there are individuals who are talking.
Got it.
As Bill just laid out, we still have IRGC shooting into the strait, even just a couple of days ago.
Okay, here's President Trump on the phases of talks with Iran.
The first phase is the opening of the straits. The second phase will be the denuclearization, and that'll take a little while. But we're very strong on it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
For a long time, you have maintained that time has been on our side, although, as I understand it, your thinking has been altered in 3 ways. Let's take the first one. What would that be?
Well, I mean, first of all, because the Iranians continue to shoot directly at U.S. forces and have killed several more Americans, President Trump, one of his great virtues is that he has said he doesn't want to put troops in harm's way because he does not want American casualties. But the other side of that, Dana, is that if there are American casualties, the United States must do something different than we're doing and exact a great penalty for that. And I have not seen that yet.
All right. And your second change?
The second change, I think, is that the Gulf states have not been helping the United States to the degree that they should, because this is their neighborhood. If the Saudis are going to continue to try to beg the United States not to do what is necessary, I mean, we need to change strategies here with our Gulf partners. In the beginning of the conflict, they were more with us. But then, as we pointed out before, Dana, even the Saudis have restricted airspace against the United States. And so I think at this point, the United States needs to be much more forceful, go alongside the Israelis like we were, and take much more robust military action.
That was echoed by Jonathan Schanzer in the New York Post today, saying that Saudis gravitate toward Middle East basket cases when it should join U.S.'s fight against Iran. With the war at an impasse and the Iranian regime looking increasingly emboldened by that, Saudi Arabia must be put to a choice. And did you have a third point that you wanted to make?
Yes, I do. And that, Dana, is that we've got the reporting, credible reporting, that the Chinese are considering sending more weapons to Iran. We cannot permit that to happen. And so I do think, although we have the economic advantage, we've got great military power and surging in the region. So we have the advantage vis-a-vis Iran. And in that sense, we can outlast them. But we do not want the Chinese to get involved in this. And so that's why I think we do need to move quickly to try to compel the Iranians to stop. And that means, I think, much more robust military action to hit different targets than we've been hitting, including the IRGC themselves and energy infrastructure that the IRGC relies on for their war effort. I think that is necessary, and time is of the essence.
Federal officials are investigating after city water systems in at least 7 states were hit with cyber attacks, and it comes as the Trump administration warns that Iran-affiliated hackers are targeting critical infrastructure here at home. Jennifer Griffin has much more for us. Hi, Jennifer. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Dana. Minnesota has reported attacks on roughly 30 water systems, while Michigan has confirmed 9 incidents, 7 states in total. The FBI has warned that Iranian-affiliated cyber actors are targeting internet-connected industrial control systems used by U.S. critical infrastructure, including water and wastewater facilities. But until this point, the White House has tried to avoid blaming Iran.
We heard in Minnesota there was a cyber attack, and they blame it on Iran. I don't think so. I blame it on Minnesota because they're grossly incompetent.
Iran certainly has been doing this well before this conflict, and this is something we certainly need to be aware of.
We're at
and we
war
need to
now,
be diligent.
CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, warned Thursday it is seeing, quote, a significant increase in cyber threat actors targeting programmable logic controllers, PLCs, in the water and wastewater system sector, adding that the activity has resulted in boil water notices and sustained manual operations.
All indications are pointing to Iran trying to disrupt the United States in any way they possibly can. Water treatment facilities, medical facilities, pretty much no holds barred. And we should be very concerned about that because they will go over that line that traditionally hasn't been done before in order to inflict damage here in the United States.
Federal agencies have not publicly linked the Michigan and Minnesota incidents to Iran, but they are urging utility companies of all sizes to disconnect vulnerable operational technology from the internet, change default passwords, and strengthen cyber defenses as the investigation continues.
We begin in Washington state, where police have made an arson arrest in connection with one of the wildfires, forcing people from their homes. Aaron Farinacci, a 37-year-old who lives in Spokane, is charged in connection with the Old Trails fire. That's the largest of 3 wildfires burning through the Spokane area right now. Some 67,000 people are under evacuation orders, with hundreds of buildings burned to the ground in what Washington Governor Rob Ferguson called a nightmare situation. CBS News' Bradley Blackburn is following this story for us and kicks off our hour. Bradley, good morning. Tell us about this arrest.
Errol, these pictures are just devastating, right? We know that investigators began investigating Farinacci after he was spotted by a witness who reported seeing him kneeling near grass where the fire began. That witness said he looked nervous. He was released after initial questioning, but the major crimes team later circled back to him and determined the fire had started where he was seen kneeling. The Spokane County Sheriff said when Farinacci was detained, he was in possession of some waterproof matches and a butane lighter. The sheriff added Farinacci has a prior manslaughter conviction in Arizona. He will appear in court today, and he's being held on a $1 million bond. The fires began on Saturday and quickly ripped through Spokane neighborhoods in what is known as the wildland-urban interface. Those are areas where human structures sit on the edge of or within the wilderness. When our Chris Van Cleve asked a firefighter just how intense these blazes were, he compared them to some of the most devastating wildfires of recent years.
I would say this is the caliber of the campfire in Paradise in 2018, the car fire also in 2018, the fire that we just had a couple of years ago in the Palisades and the Eden fire. Basically, it was burning primarily structures. We saw that where it was just house to house.
So far, no deaths have been reported, but many people have lost everything in these fires. The heat and wind that initially fueled the flames have now died down, but dangerous conditions are expected to return by tomorrow. Errol, with major fires also burning in Washington, Idaho, and Utah, this is one of the Northwest's worst fire seasons in 3 decades.
This isn't just merch, it's a movement. FlashPoint gear is made for those who won't back down, who stand for truth, faith, and freedom.
Go to the FlashPointStore.com.
From t-shirts and hats to more.
That's where all the new products are. Check it out. You'll be glad you did.
Every piece is designed to speak before you do. Wherever life takes you, wear what you believe. Wear FlashPoint. Order now at FlashPointStore.com. Don't just follow the movement, represent it.
So now here in New York, the Democratic Socialist Mayor Mamdani facing growing backlash over plans for city-run grocery stores. These stores would offer steep discounts, and those plans running into a political buzzsaw about questions over ID for the shoppers. Here was the mayor's explanation just yesterday.
This is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling.
We are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card esque, and also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers.
All right, Stephen Fulop's here to answer some questions, CEO and president of the Partnership for New York. Stephen, nice to see you. Good
nice
morning
to see you too. Good morning.
So the president caught wind of this, the whole suggestion by some that an ID would be required. First, listen to what he had to say. Oval Office.
I wish they'd have an ID to access the voting booth. You know, they don't want to access the voting booth with any identification. We want voter ID, and we want proof of citizenship. Well, he also had a thing where you had to have 2 different IDs to shovel snow during the winter, right?
That was the moment. That was the story.
I forgot about that.
So Mamdani's spokesperson comes back and says, comparisons to voter ID law or the SAVE Act simply do not apply. This is not an identification system, nor is it a mechanism to verify who someone is, where they live, or how much they earn. It is a practical inventory management tool to ensure affordable groceries remain available for the people who need them instead of being cleared off shelves for resale, end quote.
Yeah, so meaning no fraud.
You cut through it. Do you need an ID or not? Why don't you answer that first?
Well, look, I think that the mayor is saying that you need an ID. I think that the president's point on voter ID is a fair one. I think over the last week you heard the governor of New Jersey actually say that she would sign a voter ID bill, which is a prominent Democrat. I think there's validity what the president's saying there. Mm-hmm. If you're going to push IDs on one part of life over here, or pretty much in every part of life, then I think it's fair to say that on voting, which is an important part of American identity and culture.
Stephen, it's great to have you here, and I'm glad that you took this job and that you're willing to come on and talk to us, because one of the things that's upsetting to the bodega owners, the smaller grocery store owners, for people at home who don't know what a bodega is, and they're worried about their own livelihood. They operate on very thin profit margins, and here's what one of the owners said to us yesterday.
How can we compete as a small business with a city-owned grocery store? With their low prices, it's going to be very hard for us to keep up with margins, being able to pay rent, payroll, and everything else under the roof. So this is, if this is an experiment to him, this is insane. This is going to kill us.
So I can understand that Mamdani, like, he hates big business, right, and the big corporations. But what about these guys?
I think if you fast forward 4 years, this will not work out the way it's planned, okay? Like, full stop. There isn't an example in the country where a publicly run grocery store has been successful. The margins on grocery stores are relatively small to begin with. And so thinking that you could have a 30% discount and still make it work financially and keep the small businesses in the area still viable is just, being misguiding to the public. So I think that when we look forward, this is not going to be a success. It'll probably end up being a failure. $70 million in taxpayer dollars is what they're proposing to spend on it. And
is there anything you can do to help these bodega owners?
What we've been saying is the best way to combat rising grocery store costs and grocery costs, which everybody experiences, better paychecks and better jobs. And so if you're chasing away jobs and job creators from New York City, it's counterintuitive to really combating the affordability crisis. So that's kind of where we are.
European leaders meeting to address the deadly mass migrant surge in Spain, as President Trump warns it could happen here if the far left takes charge again.
Very careful with the whole socialist thing. When I saw what happened in Spain, I said, we had a version of that. You could say much worse. We're going to be just like that if you put these lunatics in that I see running for office. We had an open border a year and a half ago. We had the worst border in the history of our country. Now we have the best border.
Our next guest was born in the United Kingdom and has been covering European immigration crisis for years. Washington Examiner editorial director Hugo Gurdon joins us now. Hugo, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Part of the problem in Europe right now, when you see the people so frustrated, goes directly to this issue, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does. They're very frustrated because they have never said that they want all of these immigrants. They have never been asked. They've never voted for it. And yet they're led by one government after another from different parties. And none of them seems to be strong enough or determined enough. None of them has the will to make sure that Europe is kept for the Europeans. And they're day after day, month after month, masses, thousands of immigrants are coming in, a lot of them from Africa, as was the case in this Spanish enclave, Ceuta, coming in from Morocco, 60,000 in a couple of days. It's very frustrating for the Europeans, and that's why there are new parties springing up promising to do something about it.
That's exactly right. And Hugo, this all came about because of this socialist push, and many people in our country are now trying to model themselves after Europe.
Yeah, it's exactly so. One has to remember that socialism is an international movement. And a lot of the socialists, the socialists who just won in New York, the socialists running for the Senate in Michigan right now, they are for open borders. They're not hiding this. They don't believe in, they want to abolish ICE. They don't believe in policing the borders. They want, in fact, the socialists of America very explicitly say they want non-citizens to vote. So they're all for this. And President Trump is entirely right that we had an appalling situation under President Biden, and it's now largely been fixed. We have a secure border. But you can see what it's like as it continues in Europe. And in fact, one of the points that I think is really important is that this could ultimately break up the EU. You've already had Italy suspending the agreement to allow movement of peoples across borders, and that's supported by both Denmark and Finland. One of the core ideas of the European Union is that there should be free movement of goods and people. Well, you can't have free movement of people if there are total foreigners crossing the border without permission, and they're being let in by countries like Spain.
It's such a good point. And people need to remember what happened during the Biden years. It's part of the reason how you got Donald Trump in the first time around. And this is why people send him back to office. There's been such a focus on ICE in this country, and now how we got to this point. You don't want to look like that. Hugo, thanks so much for joining the program.
Federal sources telling Fox News ICE made roughly 51,000 immigration arrests in July. So that's more than 1,600 per day. It marks the highest single month of arrests the agency has ever recorded. ICE has been steadily ramping up arrests during President Trump's second term. The White House has reportedly pushed immigration officials to aim for 2,000 arrests a day.
So meanwhile, ICE scoring a major legal win yesterday. Federal judge halting a New York state law that bans agents from wearing face masks. This after the Trump team sued to block the ban, arguing it's an illegal push to regulate the federal government. Brian Yanis on that story. The latest in New York City. Brian, good morning.
Bill, good morning. And it's not just masks. A federal judge has also temporarily blocked New York's law requiring federal agents to wear visible ID badges. Judge May D'Agostino ruling that under the Constitution's Supremacy Clause, New York State cannot control how federal agents do their jobs, meaning at least for now, ICE, FBI, DEA, and Customs and Border Protection officers can wear masks and don't have to wear IDs in New York. In a preliminary ruling, the judge said about an agent's personal decision to wear masks, quote, the individual choices of some federal officers do not open the floodgates to direct state regulation of federal law enforcement operations and policy. The judge refused, however, to block the Termination Act, which bans local counties and cities from cooperating with ICE. The law takes effect August 25th and ends Nassau County's partnership with ICE, including giving ICE a permanent presence at the county jail. Nassau County Executive and Republican gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman strongly opposes the Termination Act.
Why is Kathy Hochul doing everything in her power to make it less safe to live in New York State? By cooperating with ICE agents, in my county alone, we removed 2,000 illegal migrants with criminal records.
In a joint statement, Governor Kathy Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James say, quote, local law enforcement should be focused on local matters and New York taxpayers should not have to foot the bill for any collaboration with ICE. As for face masks, Hochul and James say they do not make New York safer and they are reviewing all legal options. This was a preliminary ruling. Bottom line, the judge still has to make a final decision on masks, IDs, and ICE cooperation.
So you may remember NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He took a lot of heat for refusing the COVID vaccine. And here's what he said about Dr. Fauci dodging lawmakers' questions.
I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Gotta love that guy. Okay.
Like that absolute coward, Tony Fauci. Absolute coward.
Yeah. There, it's back,
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, 111
You
times.
got a pardon and you're in front and you pleaded over 100 times. Spending the entire time writing in his diary about how fun it is to be famous. You got to be kidding me.
Okay, so on that note,
what are you going to say about me now?
All right, Charlie Hurt joins us. So glad you're in the city this week. This is also what Rodgers said about media coverage. I thought that was a good one, and I know you love media
this is good.
criticism.
How much time did the network spend at that? How much time did they spend on my responses every week, on my vaccination status, on Taylor and Travis's wedding? Did they do even a minute? Did they do even a minute on Tony Fauci?
No, I don't think I've heard anything.
I bet they did.
And the cheering in the background's interesting.
Yeah, it is. They were really juiced.
They agreed.
To have him saying all that stuff. And if you listen, the part you played was the first reference. He goes, the network. 100%. And everybody is like, and even the interviewer guy is like, yeah, the network. And then on the second round, he goes back and says, ESPN, you guys at your network. And then he name checks them. And then at that point, they're like, uh-oh, we're under the spotlight now, too. And they start kind of backpedaling. And he doesn't relent. He keeps going. And he's right about this. It's not just Fauci. It's not all of us should stop for a little introspection about how that got handled.
You know what struck me, Charlie? Pat McAfee, he's an alpha host.
Yeah.
All right? He's talking all the time, and he's controlling the conversation. He could have said, he could have said the sky is blue, and Aaron Rodgers was coming back to Fauci every single time.
Yeah, and he did.
He had a plan.
He tried, and once Aaron Rodgers name checked ESPN specifically after that first reference, McAfee kept trying to change the subject, but he was not, like he said, he was not about to let that happen.
Watch FlashPoint every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. This has been a FlashPoint NewsBreak presentation.
Thank God for my life.